This video will be covering the life and heroic actions of Paul Holmberg in the Battle of Midway, where he dropped the first bomb on the Japanese carrier Soyu, scoring the first hit on it, as well as a direct hit on the Japanese light carrier Rohojo in the Solomon Islands, where he received a Gold Naval Cross for each of these heroic actions. Paul Holmberg grew up in Brunswick, Missouri, United States, son to John Peter Svensson Holmberg, who was a Swedish immigrant who arrived in the United States in 1893, lying about his age, saying he was 17 when he was really only 15. He went on to be a track supervisor for Wabash Railroad, and he was transferred to Brunswick, Missouri, where he brought up his family. Paul grew up like any other kid at the time. He worked hard in school and had a passion for sports, especially baseball, and continued to play at the Naval Academy. He joined the ROTC and attended the University of Missouri for engineering. After 3 years of studying, he received an appointment to the Naval Academy and moved to Indianapolis. He had to lie about his age to be accepted. That secret he would take to his grave. He graduated in 1939 and sailed on a midshipman cruise that went to Portsmouth, England, Gothenburg, Sweden, and several other locations. He engaged his wife Betty only months before Pearl Harbor. They would later go on to marry in the war. I will now read an account of the Battle of Midway made by an interviewer after interviewing Paul Holmberg and the rest of his squadron. On June 4th, 1942, Holmberg and his squadron were in the ready room aboard the USS Yorktown. Waiting for instructions to launch, suddenly the word was given, mans to planes. They knew the Enterprise and the Hornet had already launched planes, and they were afraid the battle would be over before they got there. Holmberg was caught in a slipstream on takeoff, nearly failed to gain speed after clearing the deck. His left wing brushed a gutter on the forward catwalk. For a second, thoughts raced through his mind about crashing and failing to accomplish his first combat mission. He recovered and joined up as Leslie's wingman. About 5 minutes later, he saw Leslie's bomb drop off when he electrically armed it. He saw Leslie berating himself. Holmberg's gunner saw that 3 other planes lost their bombs. They climbed to 20,000 feet and used oxygen masks. When they finally reached the Japanese fleet, Leslie turned to bring the squadron into position. He wasted no time but signaled for them to form up for a dive. Squadron went into single file, Leslie leading the first third of the wave. When he was sure Holmberg was behind him and other squadron members were in their dives, he made a maneuver to take himself out of the dive. Holmberg thus led the attack on the carrier. Holmberg came in the perfect textbook attack. The carrier was in the wind, Holmberg headed slightly stern to the bow. He initially lined up his sights looking over the cow, then shifted his long telescopic sight and aimed at the large red circle on deck. Holding his dive a bit longer than usual, rather than dropping at 2,500 feet, he dropped at about 1,500 feet, and then pulled out of his dive around 500 feet. He could see flames on each side of the carrier. Its AA guns opened fire. He could feel something like shrapnel hitting his plane, but it failed to upset his dive. One of the most perfect he had made. He cleared the ship and could see the recent target, a mass of colors, red, blue, green, etc. As the carrier exploded from his and its own detonations, he maneuvered his plane away. He noticed he and his instrument panel were covered in oil, a loss of hydraulic pressure that left one wheel down. Soon Leslie and the rest of his squadron joined up and headed back to the Yorktown, but it was under attack. They were waved off. Leslie and Holmberg circled, watching the Yorktown under attack. They noted the US fighters were excellent, but so were the Japanese pilots. After the attack, the Yorktown was dead in the water. They started to search for survivors. They spotted 2 downed US planes floating in the water with survivors nearby, in life rafts. Holmberg circled while Leslie flew off and sent for rescue boats. Soon Holmberg ran low on fuel and made a power landing near Astoria. His gunner got the rubber raft out, but it was riddled with bullet holes and shrapnel. It sank and so did the plane. They treaded water briefly until a motorboat launched from the Astoria picked them up. Holmberg remarked the squadron party given at Kanoa the night before they flew to the Yorktown for this mission, there was a sense of finality to their conduct, as though they knew something ominous would happen. He said it was the first time he had seen gallon whiskey jugs. Super quick break to shout out these guys called I Want a Tank on Instagram. They're pretty cool guys. They're trying to get a tank. They've already gone $2,000, so definitely consider following and maybe even donating if you can. If they got a tank, I would definitely go down there, film a video on it, and They're pretty cool guys, so definitely go check them out. After the Battle of Midway, he also took part in the campaign in the Solomon Islands, notably in Guadalcanal, where he would go on to receive his second Gold Naval Cross for his actions in August 4th, 1943, where he scored a direct hit on the Japanese light carrier Rahojo. Paul and Betty would go on to grow their family, having one boy and 4 girls, one of them being Patsy, my grandma. After the war, Paul went on to study at MIT, receiving a master's degree in aeronautical engineering in 1947. The Navy stationed him at the Naval Air Missile Test Center at the point of Malgo, California, and his family lived nearby in Oxnard. From 1950 to 1953, he was project manager for the development of the Regis I missile, the Navy's first nuclear-tipped submarine-launched missile to achieve operational success. He was later responsible for the establishment of the Pacific Missile Range for testing the nation's ICBMs and ABM weaponry. Paul assumed duties as Vice Commander of Naval Air Systems Command in 1968, and he held this position until he retired in 1971. At the height of his career, he became a Rear Admiral, and at his acceptance speech, he owed it all to his wife, Betty. Other notable achievements of his post-war life were convincing wealthy private contractors to pay sailors hefty wages for constructing a golf course along the runway of the Kwajalein Naval Base in the Marshall Islands. He also loved going deep-sea fishing while he was stationed there. Paul Holmberg, Rear Admiral, United States Navy, was buried beside his wife, Betty, in the Arlington National Cemetery in 1986. Paul Holmberg's actions directly led to the sinking of 2 Japanese carriers, and carriers were the name of the game in the Pacific, making his actions very impactful to the war. And if you picked up on it, yes, this man is my great-grandpa, and I really wanted to make this video telling his story. It means a lot to me, and I hope you guys found something interesting from it. This video is a lot more formal and serious than I usually would. I have a whole script that I've been reading off of. It doesn't make it as exciting, but I really wanted to tell his story, and to tell his story as best as I could. I also want to make some more history videos. I have an idea about a video on Japanese tanks, maybe a T-34 video. Leave your comments if you want me to, do a video on some World War II history topics. I might choose it. And I hope you guys enjoyed. Also, remember to go follow the I Want a Tank guy on Instagram and consider donating. Also, in the comments, I'll have linked a couple of websites where you can read about Paul Holmberg, and also a video on the SBD-3 Dauntless, which was the dive bomber that he used. That's all for the video. Thank you for watching.